Hey guys, this is Mel, and I am back to talk about Shadowhunters for one last time, as it's the two-part series finale. That is episode 321 titled Alliance and episode 322 titled All Good Things, ... which both premiered May 6, 2019, which ended up being my birthday. So, um, yeah, so I got the end of this series on my birthday, but I didn't see it until the following day on Netflix. But I am recording on May 11th, so it's been a busy week. But gathered all my thoughts. It's definitely a long list of things I try to compile together, but it's going to be a tough one. And I'm going to try to do this in 30 minutes just because it is the series finale. There is a bunch of things to cover. So let's start the clock and let's begin with what happened in the series finale. So first off, the episode reminders that I will give right off the bat is the fact that you have the series finale part 1 and part 2. For 321 specifically, we have it focusing on like saving Magnus and Izzy from Edom. And then for 322, it's pretty much the Malik wedding everybody's been waiting for. And then also the fact that we finally got to see the Toronto Institute in the show, because the show was filmed in Toronto. So they did a whole bunch of things to make sure that wasn't like made callbacks to, except for in the finale, which I do appreciate. So that was pretty cool to see little callbacks to the place where they were filming this whole time. So there's that. So timeline-wise, let's get right into that. So for 321, the episode continues from where 320 ended off, or it's possibly the next day after the events of 320, which is the whole demon invasion in Alicante, and Magnus kind of sacrificing himself to get to Edom to close the rift. But then 322 takes off immediately after 321 because it is part 1 and part 2. So there's that. So most shocking moments of the episode. So for 321, a shocker I would have to say was Izzy being literally on fire, and it was due to the heavenly fire that got infused in her body when the shrapnel's pieces got embedded in her spine. And ironically enough, it happened right after she kissed Simon. So there's that. And then another shocker was the fact that Alec made a comment saying that he was willing to become a vampire if it meant he was able to save Magnus and be with him in Edom, because only those with demon blood could survive in Edom. So downworlders, actual demons, not Shadowhunters. So there's that. Which I gotta say is a great progress for Alec, considering where we first met him in the pilot episode. So there's that. Now for 322, the most shocking moment was the fact that, one, Jonathan killed the Seelie Queen, and the second one being that Jocelyn visits Clary because she was sent down by Raziel to scold and warn Clary about her new runes, and how if she were to create one more new rune of her own, there will be consequences, which led to Clary actually losing her Shadowhunter memories and status. So that was a huge shocker there. I wasn't expecting the finale of all things. Like, I expected if it was a cliffhanger for like just a regular season finale, not for a series finale. You gotta want your happy endings, especially if you have been given the opportunity to give the happy ending if possible. So that was a huge shocker there. But let's move on to the first scenes of the episode. So for 321, the first scene was Jonathan being confronted by the Seelie Queen. This is the scene where we find out that Jonathan is slowly not able to feel anything, whether it comes to taste or whether it becomes to emotions, because his humanity is slowly burning away until he starts this new metamorphosis that would turn him into a demon to end all demons, and which started when his connection to Clary was severed and those black wings emerged, and this new power of his inside of him brings death easily with a thought for him, brings death to living plants around him. So that has the Seelie Queen a little worried and trying to get him onto her side. So there is that. And this is still red-haired Jonathan too. Now for the 322, the first scene of the episode was Lilith consuming her wraith demons before she transformed into her demon form herself. This is also the scene where Jace, Izzy, and Melanor try to confront and try to attack her, but Melanor is injured. All the other ones join them. Magnus and Lorenzo save Melanor from bleeding out, and Izzy ends up killing Lilith with the heavenly fire, and then she kind of gets stuck with being like kind of like burned from the inside from using that power, and then everyone bands together to try to save Izzy from the heavenly fire, and then that backfires, or it pans out well for them, but it backfires onto Edom, destroying it. So there's a huge first scene there, and then it's the title card, I believe. It was I think so. I don't know, I just pretty much gave away the first storyline, which is what I'll get into right now. So let's go into storyline breakdowns for the episode. For 321, it pretty much was rescuing Magnus from Edom. The second one, which dealt with the Shadowhunters. The second one was settled into Edom, and that was pretty much the tensions between Magnus and Lilith, her trying to get back the throne of Edom while Magnus is holding up the rift and taking his father's place. So there's that. The third one deals with Jonathan's transformation or his metamorphosis. It's now to the point that he has white blonde hair and he has claws for hands instead. And then we also see the Seelie Queen training Jonathan with how to use his newly unleashed power. So there's that. And then the fourth storyline is we get to see the second part of Jordan's funeral or wake at the Jade Wolf with the other surviving wolves and Simon being present. So there's that, because in the previous episode they did the funeral pyre for Jordan at the very end. So there's that. Now with 322, the storylines, I do have 4 specific ones. First one being fighting Lilith, which was the first scene I just described. The second one is Jonathan's revenge, and that is him killing Shadowhunters and mundanes that get in his way so that Clary could feel the guilt of having the world burn because of her. So this, we see Jonathan attacking institutes worldwide. Like, for example, the LA Institute, which is where Robert and Max Lightwood are stationed. And then that leads them to Toronto Institute, which is where we had the showdown between Clary and Jonathan. And this is where we finally see the White Wing Clary, which happens because she creates a room to allow that to happen. And she pretty much snuffs out the demon blood from him. And because that's the majority of who he is, he ends up dying. So there's that. Third part is the Malik wedding. And that happens 36 minutes into the episode. And I'll admit that I did cry happy tears during this moment. I didn't think I would, but I did. So there's that. So we get the whole shebang, the ceremony, the reception, some hidden goodbyes in there as well. So there's that. Now the fourth one is the time jump we get. So we get the Malik wedding, and then time jumps to 1 year later. Now this is going to be a little lengthy because I want to cover everything. So hang tight. So let's start with Malik. We find out that Alec is the High Inquisitor in Alicante. Magnus moved to his apartment so that they can live in Alicante and still be within the home that they met in. And he is the High Warlock of Alicante, and he works as well as a wards repair, changing people's wards to allow downworlders access now, since now there's a whole bunch of collaborations and stuff. So there's that. Now with Sizzy, that's Simon and Izzy. Izzy is now the head of the New York Institute, so she has taken over Alec's old job. We find out that Simon is a deputized downworlder who's being trained by Jace, so he works alongside Shadowhunters for cases. So that's pretty cool. And we also find out that Simon completed the graphic novel that he had been working on with Clary long before they got introduced to the Shadow World. And he is having it published under the name Ezekiel J. Russo. And he is a little disappointed that Clary would never know that the book that they started together is finally going to see the light of day. So there's that. Now, Luke and Maris. I wrote their name, but I can't say it. But anyways, we find out that Luke is stationed in Brazil, and Maris is there with them. She loves the beaches despite hating the heat, according to Alex. So at least they're still going strong there. So there's that. Now we have Clace. Clace is kind of the unhappy ending when it comes to couples, just because of like the current state they're in. And that is because with no Shadow World memories, Clary, now with bangs, is back at the Brooklyn Art Academy, showcasing her work at either a student showcase or she's actually working at a local gallery. I don't know. But we also see Jace secretly checking up on her while he's under a glamour because he can't let go of her. He still believes their love is greater than the angel's wrath on them. And then at the final part is that when he checks her at this gallery, Clary actually sees Jace through his glamour. She notices the runes on his neck. She even recognizes him as Jace, which is sparking the hope that maybe they can be reunited and reclaim the love that was taken from them by the angel's punishment. So that's what we get there. Now, in regards to downworlders in general, we do, again, have them deputized and working alongside the Shadowhunters, Simon being one of them that we know of. So there's that. And in regards to the Jade Wolf, we find out that Maya owns the restaurant and has reworked out a new setup. It's now being called Taki's Diner after her childhood dog Taki. And Maya wants to use the restaurant to bring downworlders together. She has some menu items named after people she knows, like Clary, and she's trying to bring dishes that could entice the Seelies, the werewolves, the vampires, and the Shadowhunters to kind of bring them all together and just enjoy a good meal and stuff. And we also find out that Maya is still the alpha of a growing wolf pack, which is kind of taking time away from her trying to get the restaurant up and running, because it's time consuming, as she said. So there is that. So let's move on to the last scenes of the episode. So with 321, I know it seems kind of redundant considering it's a two-parter, but for 321, the episode did end with Jace, Izzy, and Melanor locating Lilith's castle in Edom. And the last scene for the 322 was Clary recognizing Jace and his runes. I mean, let me see. I'm assuming they did it this way to kind of insinuate the fact that Clary was slowly getting the sight back to allow her to see the shadow world, kind of paralleling what happened to her in the series premiere when she first got introduced to the shadow world and saw Jace just outside of the Pandemonium Club. So that's a little full circle moment there. So there's that. But moving on to tidbits very quickly. For 321, we do find out that the Praetor wanted a Clave spy, which is why they had wanted Luke to take the Heavenly Fire Serum, so that instead of being a werewolf, he would revert back to his previous self, which was a Shadowhunter. But Luke argues that he would have helped them regardless of any threats they would have given him. He would have done it because he, as a former downworlder, he would want to make sure that things were done right by them, without needing to be blackmailed or threatened or anything. So that's something there with the Praetor. So Luke's a Shadowhunter again. And then with 322, I don't know if I just missed it, but I took note of the fact that Magnus was left-handed in the episode. I don't know if I've just missed it before. It just never occurred to me. But when he was doing the invitations, that's where I took notice. We do get confirmation that Edom is gone or destroyed. Don't know if that means the same thing for the demons that were in Edom at the time, but I'm going to assume yes. No, I'm going to hope that that's a yes. And also, we do see Clary giving a goodbye to Simon during the Malik reception, and even comments on the fact that it sounds like a weird goodbye, though she claims it's just her being sentimental, so he allows it. But it's her secretly saying goodbye before her memories are changed. So there's that. So let's move on to characters. Very quickly. For 321, we do see Lilith again. She's trying to kiss up to Magnus before she tries to kill him. And then she's also determined to kill Jonathan as well, though she doesn't get the chance later on. So there's that. Jordan Kyle, though not seen in the episode, we do get memories of him from Maya and Simon during his wake. So there's that. We also find out from Maya that she plans to return to Ocean City to look for her parents. It's kind of like something that she has come to realize that she needs to do after Jordan's sudden passing. With Luke, I did mention that he took the Heavenly Fire Serum ordered by the Praetor. Though I don't understand why they shaved his beard off. It just looks so weird. It's just, he just doesn't look as Luke-like. Or I guess they wanted to distinguish the two different versions of him that we see. So there's that. We do see Lorenzo Rey again. He was a lizard, and now he's back to being a warlock again. And apparently he's heard of Simon's music, and he's a fan, from what I understand correctly. We do see the return of Helen Blackthorn. She's the one that diagnoses Izzy's flame condition due to her work with the Project Heavenly Fire. And then with Clary, we find out during her talk with Simon that she wouldn't trade the Shadow World for anything. We do find out in part 2 that that's pretty much what she ends up doing to save them all. And then with Izzy, we do see her temporarily having like fire magic while she's in Edom due to the Heavenly Fire. So there's that. Now, with 322, it's a little different. We do see with the Seelie Queen, she wants Jonathan as her king. She's even thinking about having a child with him so that it would be the most powerful creature to ever exist. Jonathan shuts that down immediately. With Lorenzo Rey, we see him making amends with Magnus and it ends with him getting an invite to the wedding. So that was pretty cool there. And we also see the return of brother Zachariah. He's the one that officiated over Magnus and Alec's wedding. So there's that. There are a few things revealed during the wedding specifically. And with Raphael, we find out that he had just joined a seminary and hopes to become a priest in his future. He first has to get in touch with his god, since he's fallen off the path while as a vampire. So there's that. We do find out that Aileen Penhallow and Helen Blackthorne are dating, even joking around about what they would do at their own wedding. We do see Andrew Underhill. We finally get a first name from him, but we do see him flirting with Lorenzo Ray. Also, we see Maris officially announcing her relationship with Luke, though to everybody it was already obvious that they were together. And Clary also tells Maris, like, she gives her approval, since that was one thing. Maris also wanted to talk to Clary, saying that no one would ever take Jocelyn's place in Luke's heart, which is kind of a moment that they shared. So there's that. And also we see Max Lightwood accepting Magnus as his brother, which shows he's come a long way, especially with how he behaved toward Magnus when the relationship was still new, as well as when how he behaved towards Jace when he believed that he was Jonathan Morgenstern. So Max has come a long way. So there's that. But let's move on to runes very quickly. For 321, we do get the Aratsi rune being used by Luke for the first time in many years when he's a Shadowhunter once again. We also see the creation of the Alliance rune by Clary that temporarily, I'm assuming temporarily, but it binds Shadowhunters with Downworlders, sharing each other's strengths and abilities. So Clary teams up with Simon, and we see her having vamp speed and the bloodlust, or at least the hunger to it. With Alec teaming up with Lorenzo, we see him having a bit of magical ability. He's going to have to try to control his magic by being calm and just being more focused. So there's that. And then with Jace, we see him teaming up with Melanor, and we see that he cannot lie. And it's also implied that he would have increased bedroom skills when the time came. So that was something there. So I'm assuming it's a temporary thing for that rune, but we do also see it returning again in 322 at the very beginning when everyone was still in Edom, until up to when they saved Izzy. We do have the Parapatai rune, or specifically the bond brought up between Jace and Alec, a potential Parapatai bond forming between Clary and Izzy was brought up. So they both accepted the offer from each other, though we don't see it actually come to fruition, unfortunately, but it is brought up. And then we do get the new rune that Clary created that enabled her to kill Jonathan, and that is bringing forth the white wings within her. I don't know what they would call that rune, but yeah, so there's that. But let's move on to top favorite moments for the episode. So for 321, I would have to say the confrontation between Magnus and Lilith, specifically when Magnus outstages Lilith and just pretty much overpowers her, which is amazing. And just seeing her try to kiss up to him and just be like all formal and proper and try to get in his good gracious. And then just Magnus is like, what the hell are you doing? There's so much blood between us. And it's just like, it was funny, but I really like how he just like kicked her to the curb and then he's telling her to get out of my house type of thing. So that was satisfying. So there's that. Another favorite I did have was the long anticipated kiss between Simon and Isabel, for sure. And then also tagged up with the reactions that everybody else got to them kissing. We got the overprotectiveness from Alec and Jace. We got the happiness from Clary. And it was just a funny moment. If you take out the whole Heavenly Fire obstacle between them, it was a fun thing there. Another team up not team up. My favorite is the team up, specifically with the Alliance room. It was just very interesting to see how the Shadowhunters were able to adapt to their temporary downworlder abilities, how they bonded with their respective buddy during the whole process. I mean, Clary was Simon. They're already best friends, so it's like it was interesting to see that a slightly different aspect to them and try to go a little deeper of how comparing having them compare how much their life has changed since they entered the Shadow World, I truly believe it's only been 3 months since they've entered it. Like, I can't believe it's only, it doesn't make sense. In some aspects, it doesn't make sense if it was more than 3 months, but then other ways, I don't see how couldn't have been years because of how much has changed and grown between these characters. But then timeline wise, with everything happening so fast paced, it just doesn't make sense for it to be longer. But anyways, because of that, we do see the growth between Clary and Simon and them calling back to when they were first just both humans and wondering if they would change anything. That was a great conversation there. I did like the support Lorenzo gave to Alec when Alec was kind of losing control of his magic and not being in touch with the Shadowhunter abilities, but now coming into his warlock ones or his temporary warlock ones, and having Lorenzo, instead of like dismissing him, and instead he was trying to help him. I do appreciate that. And then Jace and Melanor, that was just so funny because Jace can't lie. So Melanor is just asking so many questions that he's been dying to ask Jace, and Jace can't help but be truthful about it. So it's just an entertaining moment for that. And then also when you get Izzy coming in and she unknowingly asks Jace a question and he is truthful and she's just stunned. It's like, wow, I didn't think you'd be that truthful, until she realizes, oh wait, you can't tell a lie, can you? And that was just funny. And it kind of sucks that that's all Jace got stuck with. But yeah, that was funny though. And another favorite I did have was just seeing the reunions that Magnus gets at the very end of the episode, specifically with Alec, of course, as well as with Clary, aka his biscuit. So that was highly anticipated as well too, just to have that moment and that relief coming from him, saying like, "Oh, I can't believe you're here." And like on a level, you can know that if anyone's gonna come after him, it would be Alec, and he would find a way to do it. But then to see him see everyone else that came afterwards and see that stunned expression on his face, like, oh, like even when he asked like, what do you mean we type of thing, it's like he wasn't expecting anybody else. So it's just like, I like that he finally got to see for himself that he does have a family outside of blood that do care for him, that it wasn't just his father that he was stuck with. So there's that. But let's move on to 322 for my favorites. First one being Clary asking Isabel to be her parabatai. It really sounded like a proposal between them. I don't know why. It was very emotional, very moving, and I really love that they connected on such a profound level that they would want that next step bond between each other. And I really like that they explained how beforehand they didn't think that they would need a parabatai, but now that they've met each other, it's like, I can't see anyone else filling that role. So it truly, on some levels, it felt like a proposal, but I feel like that type of a commitment just shows how much of a progress and how much they've gone through together. So I do appreciate that. I mean, it sucks that I never got to see it come to fruition, but the fact that they were on that same wavelength was awesome. So there's that. Another favorite I had was just the dance confession between Jace and Clary. Just the whole and just their whole love story in general, and then how like he was saying what his life was like before he met her, and how meeting her had changed things. And then like it was heartbreaking that like she knew that she would have to leave because her memories were leaving, but he doesn't know that, so he truly believes that he's finally had her. And it's just like, if you forget the whole memory aspect, that moment truly cemented just how, I mean, actions speak louder than words, but I think for the first time, we actually hear it in words what their relationship is to each other, and not just like their words or just fleeting quick confessions that are said in the heat of the moment. Now that no one is threatening in this moment, they can truly express what it is they mean to each other, and I really appreciate having that moment. I mean, reading the first 3 books, I truly remember that they were my couple that I was always rooting for. Any sweet moment they had to be like, yes, finally. I remember that fleeting moment there. So there's that. Also, a side favorite was the fact that after they returned from Edom, you have all these relationships having their moments the following morning. You have the Sizzy going hot and heavy. You have Clace just sleeping in together in each other's arms, and you have Malik with one half sleeping while the other one's marveling over the fact that they are back home with the love of their life. So it's just like, it's a huge difference going from fighting for your life and eat him, and then following morning is like you're all blissed out. So it's just like, it was funny. It just cements the fact that now they're in like this state of happiness, or at least this moment where they can just relax until Jonathan gets in the way. But like, we'll forget that part for now. And then another favorite was the fact that it truly came down to Clary being the one going up against Jonathan. In fact, we finally got black wings versus white wings. And it sucks that she had to be the one to kill her own brother, but in the end, he turned into something that wasn't her brother anymore, if at all. So it's just like, it was a powerful moment when it happened. I'm glad it happened the way it happened, like it did. It sucks that she got punished for doing that, but I like the moment itself and how she was able, like, even what she was confessing to him, and like those are genuine words and her beliefs and her worries and stuff, and like you could truly feel that there's no manipulation between her when she's saying these words to Jonathan. The only manipulation comes when she's hugging him and she's ready to squeeze the life out of him. That's the only thing. But yeah, there's that. But moving on to top peeve moments. Now for 321, the only peeve I had was the Heavenly Fire obstacle between Izzy and Simon specifically. I just it was a peeve because the fact that it happens after their first kiss. I mean, logically, I understand it's because like that's probably as close, if not closer, that you can get to a downworlder to get it to ignite the Heavenly Fire within her. But it just truly sucks. I was going to say something else. That after waiting for so long for them to have that kiss, and then to have this thing pop up and be something that stands in their way, I feel like if this was going to be something that continued in season 4, I feel like their separation would have been dragged out for so long, building up tensions and stuff. And like, I'm glad it was like a quick episode fix, but it's like, I feel like that would have been something I would have been so annoyed with if that was in season 4 and they did drag it out. So the timing of it is what pissed me off. Not for long, but still. So there's that. But for 322, my major peeve was the fact that Clary got punished by the angels for creating runes against their blessing, despite her actions resulting in saving everyone. I mean, she used the gift that she was given to unite the Shadowhunters with the Downworlders with the Alliance rune, which resulted in the destruction of Edom, which I'm assuming destroyed all the demons that were currently in Edom at the time. Why is she getting punished for that? That seems like she accomplished a lot more than any Shadowhunter could have done, right? So, like, there's that. Also, it truly pissed me off that when she used her gift to destroy Jonathan, who was growing more powerful than anyone could have ever imagined, he was slaughtering mundanes and Shadowhunters with no signs of slowing down. She created a rune that ultimately stopped him from continuing this destruction, and yet she got punished for it by having her status as a Shadowhunter stripped and her memories wiped of it. It just seemed completely unfair that she had to sacrifice so much of herself to save this world that she just got introduced to, and she was trying to use the gifts that she was given to the best of her abilities, and yet because the angels didn't like it, they were just going to punish her from it. It's just, that pissed me off so much. And it just like, no, that's another thing too. The fact that she also turned back into a mundane with no memories of what has happened in her time in the Shadowhunter world. The fact that everyone she knew in the human world was connected to the Shadowhunter world now. So pretty much losing her memory meant she had no support system now. I mean, like, what does she think happened to Simon now? What does she think happened to Luke or her mom? And like, where does she even live since she lives at the Institute? It's like, where is she gonna get money now? It's like all these real world problems and stuff, right? But then also the fact that after hearing her confession about how she wouldn't trade anything in the world if it meant losing the Shadow World, when she told Simon in 321, and then to have that happen to her in part 2, it was devastating and it pissed me off so much. So there's that. And another tiny peeve I did have was the fact that Jace, throughout the whole wedding, didn't notice that Clary's runes were disappearing. It wasn't like Clary's outfit was covering up her runes. She had like a revealing back piece. Her arms were free from any coverage. I mean, we see her runes disappearing. So I'm surprised that Jace, who pretty much knows the runes on her body, doesn't recognize that there are less and less of them every time he sees her. So I would think that's something he would have noticed. And it's only a minor P because of the fact this is happening during a time of celebration for his parabatai finally being married to the love of their life. So like I can understand why it's not the forefront of his mind, but I would have thought like maybe he could think of like something doesn't look right type of thing when he sees like her arm or her lack of runes and stuff. Is like, why does that not look right type of thing. So there's that. But let's move on to random questions. Really, it only comes from part 2 because like that's the end of the show and everything. So I'll leave it with that. And there's the timer. First one, is the alliance rune permanent? I'm assuming no, but it never stated whether or not it was. I'm just going to say no, but that was a question. Also, since Clary has no memory of her time in the Shadow World, I'm wondering if any other Shadowhunters could use the runes that she had already created, like her Sunlight rune or her Portal rune. Or are they completely off limits now because the angels forbid it or because they like erased her memory and stuff? So that's a question there. Also, another question I had did pertain to mundane Clary and what she truly remembered, what happened to her mom, Luke, and Simon. Does she remember if they're all dead, or does she believe they're all dead now, or where she's living, how she living in the mundane world? Like, that was simple questions there. Also, another question pertaining to that. If Clary's memories of the Shadow World were erased, is the same done for any written proof that she could have had that documented her time in the Shadow World? Example, diary entries, drawings, any phone notes or text messages or something like that, or video recordings. Were all those tampered and messed with as well when she lost her memory, or was it just the memories herself that were tampered? Because I'm wondering if like maybe she knew Jace's name in the last scene was because she came across an old diary entry about him, or maybe an old sketch about him with something like, I don't know. I want to believe that there was some other evidence of her being there, kind of similar to with Legacies in regards to season 1 with the Malivore pit. If someone jumped in the Malivore pit, the collective conscious memory of that person is erased, but there's still, if there's a paper trail of them, it's still there. So I'm wondering if that is the same thing that happened with Clary here. But that was the last question there. So otherwise, instead of doing predictions, since that is the end of it, I'm going to give my overall thoughts for the series, since I did do videos for all, what was it, 32 episodes, right? No? Anyways, correct numbers on the screen. But for the whole series. So, while it does suck that the show got canceled before it could continue out the storylines that the book series had established, it has me with mixed feelings, because on the one hand, I'm very thrilled that we got this 2-part series finale. It would have sucked if we just ended at 320 and then that was it. And then also having this 2-part finale, it allowed for a lot of things to tie up loose ends. It allowed for certain plot points to be to conclude a lot faster than they would have been if you're trying to span it over a complete season. And you know how impatient I can be if you try to drag things out. So I did appreciate that. But then I'm also, yeah, which was also the time constraint thing. So it's like, because like if something like that were to happen, could you imagine if Sizzy, Malik, or Clace, all their separations were lasting a lot longer than the 2 episodes that the series finale had taken place, with Simon and Izzy being separated by the whole Heavenly Fire issue, Magnus and Alec being separated by Magnus being stuck in Eden and Alec trying to find a way to get to him. Imagine how long that would have spanned if that lasted into the next season. Or what about Jace and Clary? The fact that her losing her memories and Jace having to suffer because he's without her and trying to figure out how he's going to move forward without her while she's slowly getting potentially her sight back. Imagine how that's going to drag out. It's just like, based on those storylines, I'm glad we got the 2-part finale because like they wrapped up very quickly on those issues. I would have been so annoyed if those spanned out. So there's that. So on some hands, it was just great to have the finale, the series finale, because we got the endings our characters deserve. We got to see them have a conclusion, to see that their life did continue in a way that we had hoped for their life to continue after the major battles have ended. But on the other hand, it is disappointing that we don't get to see more of our characters. Yes, they do have their happy endings now, but I don't get 20 new episodes with them. I don't get 40 new episodes with them, depending on how long the series continued on. And with the book series already being established, there is more story and possibility, right? So it's disappointing on some levels, but I did enjoy the series. It did have its moments. I'm definitely going to remember a lot easier than the books, unless I go reread the books again. Again, only read the first 3, like, over 10 years ago. But I am going to miss these characters. This cast did a phenomenal job. And just the relationships and the friendships that were through these characters is just, it was fun to watch, for sure. So thankfully it's going to stay on Netflix. Please don't take it down, Netflix, please. So I can go back and watch it whenever I can. Maybe I'll start from the very beginning, because like rewatching is on the rage now, isn't it? But otherwise, that is pretty much it, guys. But what did you guys think of the series finale? What did you guys like about it? What do you think, or what did you hope would have happened if there was a season 4? Let me know in the comments down below. Love to hear your thoughts, theories about all of that. Or what about you telling me what was your favorite moment in the series finale? Or what would overall even? Or how about what would you have hoped we would have seen in the series finale? That would have been a good question. There's a lot of possibilities. That's why fan fiction is there for us. So I gotta go tune into that later on, though. So there is that. But yeah, otherwise, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, check out my other videos if you haven't done so already. If you want, check out my Tumblr page. Link for that is down below. I read blog promos, web clips, quotes, gifs, synopsis, news, all the good stuff, all found in one place. Go check that out. I do have to update now that the show has ended. I'd have to go back to the very beginning and add everything properly. So I hope you're patient about that. WordPress account, link for that is down below. Everything I post online is connected to WordPress. More detailed, more organized, but still a work in progress as well. I do have to change that now to update the status of Shadowhunters there. But otherwise, that is pretty much it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you for joining me on this series journey. Sad to see it go, but I did have fun watching the journey continue forth, and I hope you did as well. But I hope you come back to see my other videos if something else has piqued your interest. But for one final time for Shadowhunters, this is Mel. Wishing you all a great day, great week, wherever you are. Bye for now.